I was disappointed and understood. I was both yesterday watching the Knicks play basketball. Like Game 7, Garden, everything. I fell into it. I did. The Pacers could not miss a shot. They started 76%. I think they shot 76% from three. They shot 67% for the game. That's the best playoff performance from a shooting percentage standpoint ever.
They almost shot the same from the field as they did the free throw line. They were 67% from the field. They were 68% from the free throw line.
That kind of tells you and sums it up of sometimes there's just nothing you could do.
Yeah.
But then you add that Josh Hart suffered an abdomen injury. They were already depleted in the injury department. Yeah. OG came back, but clearly was not ready. He didn't play much.
Played 5 minutes.
And then Brunson breaks his hand, and we had a absolute dud of a Game 7 in the Garden. And I just wondered if Mike Breen was jealous of Minnesota and Kevin Harlan.
Yes.
For not being able to call that game.
Also, it's got to be tough for being. I know he's good at being the even announcer. He's not a homer or anything like that. That also has to be tough. Like he's calling that game. It's where he calls games all year. He's the voice of the Knicks, and they're getting roasted in Game 7 on their own floor. When we were all having conversations a week ago of like, hey, can New York push Boston? How long is that series going to go?
Yeah.
And then they just get housed in Game 7 on their own floor in the second round, and they don't even get there. I wasn't surprised because of all the injuries. I also think, we've been saying this the entire playoffs. Like, when you only play 6 guys, if one of them goes down, you don't got a lot of room for error, man.
No.
Like, you're playing these dudes 45 minutes a night, and I don't know if it's just a Tibbs thing or if it's a depth thing. I don't know.
Also remember, they were missing Julius Randle.
Sure, but he was out the entire run.
Somebody else who normally would have been in the rotation.
At some point, you're going to run your guys into the ground. And they got hurt.
Do you think it's a Tibbs problem?
I don't know. I'm not just necessarily putting it all on him. Like, it's not his fault that Brunson broke his hand or that Hart had an abdominal injury.
Hasn't been to a conference finals since Chicago in 2011.
Third longest streak of not getting to a conference finals in the NBA right now.
The Knicks?
Yeah,
I was
2000.
I was rooting hard for a New York-Boston conference final, even though those cities and fan bases are insufferable. The atmosphere alone would have been great. And then I'm watching the pregame. I got golf on the big screen. I got basketball starting on the iPad. I'm watching them both at the same time. And I look down, and it's just Stephen A. Smith screaming from the sideline like he's giving a pregame speech, grabbing Spike Lee and knocking his hat off continuously. And I thought, you know what? Screw this, dude. Go Indiana. And they came out and absolutely burned him yesterday.
One little note I had in my favorite things from the weekend, but we ran out of time, was, did you see – I don't know. I shouldn't be surprised, but I kind of got annoyed. Did you see the ESPN – tweet before the start of this game? They showed Stephen A. walking into the Garden like he was a player.
Yes.
In his suit, glasses, headphones. They filmed him like he was a player walking into the tunnel and then filmed him courtside, too cool to look at everybody. And I thought, this is my favorite thing. They showed him because they wanted him to go on TV and pop off about how the Knicks are amazing.
Yep.
And then they got bludgeoned, and I didn't see any of that. And I just thought, that's so great.
He's an adult cosplayer, dude. Like, he's trying to pretend like he's in a... They spent days last week debating how many guys he could score a bucket on in the NBA because during one of their, ESPN bits, he was taking shots at the hoop.
He averaged a point a game in, like, Winston-Salem College.
It's the dumbest thing that exists. Somebody put together a mashup of the last time the Knicks and Pacers played a Game 7 in the playoffs, which was sometime in the mid-90s. 94, thank you. And it was, here is the intros to the two games. And they put a mashup of it, and I watched the entire thing. It was hilarious. The 94 one is Marv Albert, all-time great broadcaster, his unbelievable voice, setting the tone. Reggie Miller on the road, just getting you hyped, and there's kind of pump-up music, and you're like, this gets me going. And then it fast forwards to 2024, and this is the intro to this year's game, and it's Stephen A. Smith screaming like he's a coach giving you a pep talk.
The funny thing is Knicks fans hate him because he's a fake Knicks fan.
He's a fake fan.
He doesn't live in New York full-time, and he constantly chides the team, and then the minute there's a good player in a small market, he wants to trade him to the Knicks. But people have noted he doesn't really watch Knicks games. He doesn't know this team very well.
No.
I think the equivalent to what you were just talking about with Stephen A. would be like us asking, how many possessions or how many plays could Will Ortner stop Nick Bosa?
Right.
Like zero.
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 Zero
he would
times.
Get bulldozed right over and be embarrassed on national television. So
yes, zero is the answer.
And that's no shot at Will Ortner. I think it's just like a perception of, hey.
A little bit different here.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Yeah. Let's have some context here.
A little bit.
Different athletes.
1 point a game at Winston-Salem does not
in
any way say that you would score on an NBA player.
Making uncontested shots in a studio does not mean you're an NBA player. I apologize, Stephen Smith. Indiana, Boston, though, it's a bummer.
I mean, look, I think New York, by the time this game ended,
probably would have
been the same take.
Probably.
I think Indiana can push this to 6.
The Pacers have a puncher's chance because on any given night, they can just start draining threes and making shots. We also know Boston just isn't interested every single night.
Yeah, they have at least a letdown game, right?
I think the over-under is 5. The over-under is 5.
It should be done in 5, but I could definitely see it going longer because Boston is Boston.
I hope I'm surprised.
Well, also Porzingis probably not playing in this series, or at least the first couple games.
At least the first week, he's probably out, and that's
could be big time moments for guys like Miles Turner have an impact in this game.
It could.
Neesmith, Nembhard. I mean, it's what Swag says. If you want this series to be a real good series, which I think it can shock us and go 6. I hope it does. Getting chastised for having wrong predictions is hilarious in this business. That happened yesterday. But I want Indiana to make this a little more interesting than it appears to be right now.
I do too. It would be funny to see Boston have to sweat through an Eastern Conference final. I just don't know how much credit I give, or I just don't give Indiana much of a chance. This is a different animal. If New York is healthy, New York wins that series in 6, I think. They get banged up as it went on. That's part of the game, and Porzingis is going to be out in the conference finals. I look at Indiana as a 47-win team, and I think, oh, God, you're going up against something that you have not seen yet in the playoffs.
Well, that's actually not technically true. They have seen them.
They've seen Boston in the playoffs?
They saw them this year, IST semifinals.
Oh, okay.
Had to beat Boston to get to the final.
Well, there you go.
So they've got experience in a big game now.
Sure.
Vince Carter wants you to know they've been in the IST final. That probably prepared them for this Game 7.
This is also a team that if Giannis is healthy, they're out in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, you're not wrong.
No. What are we doing here?